Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back. Look, everybody out there, for those that are watching the show live, for those that are watching it back, it's a show we really didn't ever think we'd ever... Or did we end up think we were going to do this show? Tottenham are back. If it was the very first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X, we're on Facebook, on Instagram, and we are on Blue Sky too. Back alongside me, I've got Jamie Brown over at the Daily Hotspur, and we've got the wonderful Dharmesh Sheth here to give us the inside story. None of us want to really probably know. None of us at this point probably care about how Eberechi Eze is going to be an Arsenal player and not a Tottenham Hotspur player. Eberechi Eze will be joining Arsenal in what has been a crazy last 6.5 hours since we had to try and get our head around the fact that he isn't coming to Tottenham. He's going to Arsenal. And obviously, we're having Dharmesh on for a good half an hour, 40 minutes to understand how this move has come about and what has accelerated to end up Spurs losing this player that I know for many out there was seen as potentially going to be a very special player for this football club to our bitter rivals, Arsenal. Back alongside me is Jamie Brown over at Daily Hotspur. Jay, quiet one to begin with, eh? Quiet show to begin with here.
Really tricky one, this one to do. I mean, look, all Spurs fans know what kind of a player Eze was. There was a lot of talk about him being an incredibly exciting signing. There was obviously a real feel that he was a Tottenham player. I mean, we've seen some incredibly exciting players down the years at Spurs. We've been very fortunate. We thought that Eze was going to be the next one. But, we've got to just accept that, look, he wanted to join Arsenal. I guess that is the only blessing in disguise, is the fact that, look, if you don't want to come to Tottenham and you'd rather be at Arsenal, then that's so be it. But look, that doesn't stop it hurting at all. That doesn't stop that the board have severely let us down here. But yes, so it's going to be a tricky one. But look, we're obviously here to kind of come and report the news as well. It's difficult for us to come and do this show. Obviously, spoken off air quite a bit about how difficult it's going to be. But look, we're gonna do it anyway.
We are indeed, and as I helping us do this is one of the most, I think, iconic people you see of a transfer window in Dharmesh Sheth. And it's fair to say the conversation that we had this morning till now have rapidly changed over the last 8 to 10 hours. And like I say, Dharmesh is going to be with us for the first half an hour, 40 minutes to give us a breakdown of this move. And then we'll be moving into a panel show to try and decipher what comes next for Tottenham's. Dharmesh, it's lovely to have you here. I do wish you were under better circumstances. We know you're one of the busiest people in the world right now. So thank you so much for making it work. And I can imagine when you woke up this morning as well, this show is very different to what we did have planned, right? Let's be honest about it.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Pleasure.
Listen, it's extraordinary day. I've seen, some crazy days during a transfer window, deadline days. This is up there with, it was just so fast moving and fast developing that, less than 24 hours ago, I think Tottenham Hotspur probably had the impression that the deal had been agreed. He was going to be playing Eberechi Eze tomorrow night for Crystal Palace in that Europa Conference League playoff. And then, I mean, things changed rapidly. We were told that, because just to let you in on what was happening with another deal that I was working on, was a Johan Wissa deal. And the people I was speaking to on that one, because this is kind of connected here with regard to Tottenham, the people I was speaking with there have been consistently telling me that he wants to go to Newcastle. And that was his preference. Now, we do know throughout this transfer window, and for obvious reasons, the link with Tottenham Hotspur. And Tottenham Hotspur were really interested in Johan Wissa. Thomas Frank managed him, of course, at Brentford. He played some fantastic football there as well. So you could see where the link was coming from. But it's quickly emerged, like as the weeks went on, that his preference was to go to Newcastle. Then what I heard today, and I mean, you guys would have been shocked about it as well, with regard to how they were trying to do this Eze deal. And it soon emerged that Tottenham Hotspur were looking to include Richarlison going to Crystal Palace, with Eze coming to Tottenham Hotspur, and then Johan Wissa coming from Brentford to Tottenham Hotspur. Now, it's a moving part. There's so many moving parts in this, because the understanding we had on that situation was that Tottenham Hotspur wanted to bring in Eberechi Eze and Johan Wissa. But to do both deals, I think they needed to create squad space in the forward areas. So the one that they were looking at maybe involving in the deal was Richarlison. I guess the timing of that is really bad as well, considering what happened on Saturday when he started the season on absolute flames. I mean, his second goal is already contender for goal of the season. I mean, I don't think we're going to see many better goals than that one. And so that was a bit of a shock as well, that name had come out. But it soon emerged that was actually the case, and that's what was being proposed. However, when you have a deal such as that one, which involves 3 players and 3 different clubs, it only needs one part of that domino, if you like, not to fall in the right place for the whole deal not to happen. So Eberechi Eze, I'm told he was open to the move to Tottenham. I'll explain what happened with the Arsenal situation in a moment, but with regard to Tottenham, he was open to the move. And I think personal terms weren't going to be an issue. And I think Tottenham were close, or if not, agreeing in principle this deal. But I don't think, from all the information we've got, Richarlison wanted to go to Crystal Palace, or at least he wanted to remain at Tottenham Hotspur. Furthermore, like I've been saying with the Johan Wissa situation, the information we had there was that he definitely did want to go to Newcastle United. So that part of the deal, it looked like it wasn't going to happen in that form. But having said that, we still believe that Spurs and Crystal Palace were in talks over Eze doing an independent deal, and hence all of these reports were coming out suggesting that that deal had been agreed in principle. Then, in the last 24 hours, what has happened is the first news of Kai Havertz maybe having a more serious than feared injury from the Manchester United game, I think. And he only came off the bench for that. So the prognosis didn't look too hopeful for Arsenal and Havertz. However, they were still waiting for an exact time frame, what kind of injury it was, and how long he'd be out for. And then very quickly, the whole story changed with regard to Eberechi Eze and Arsenal. Now, people will immediately think, right, Arsenal have just come in, and it's in the last 6 or 7 hours, they've come in for Eberechi Eze. Yes, at this stage, yes, but you've also got to remember that from the start of this transfer window, Arsenal were interested in Eberechi Eze. Now, the information that I was getting from the start of this window was, yes, he is one of their top targets. However, it was likely to go a little bit quiet in the middle phase of the transfer window, simply because of 2 reasons. Arsenal wanted to prioritize other areas of the pitch and to bring in players that they knew at that time they had to act and bring in, because you can't always control. Just say, for example, Tottenham are interested in a centre-back and a central midfielder, and say the centre-back is the absolute priority for Tottenham Hotspur. If a central midfielder that they want becomes available before the centre-back, they're not going to not sign the central midfielder because they think they need to sign the centre-back. In the same way, with Arsenal, all of these players that they wanted to sign, they were becoming available at different times, and they spent big. They brought in 6 players for £200 million. And then the focus was completely on sales. Now, that has been the narrative in the last 2 or 3 weeks since Gyökeres joined. It's all been about sales, a number of players that they're listening to offers for. Now, what might have changed with regard to the Eze deal is the Havertz injury, number one, but also they must have in the background assurances that some of these sales are going to happen before the end of the transfer window. Because as much as they will say they need to make sales, as long as they happen before 7 p.m. on September the 1st, they're going to be all right if they can still do a deal elsewhere. So hence why this interest, and it's been more than an interest because they've had a long-standing admiration, as have Spurs, in Eberechi Eze. It's not just come up along in the last couple of days. That's when it kind of reignited again. So, yes, I know it's going to be really, really tough to take for Tottenham Hotspur fans. I can tell by the looks on your faces just now. But sometimes, you know, if you take a step back and you don't want to hear it, but from what I can see here is initially Eze's preference was probably going to be Arsenal from the outset, but there was a possibility and a strong possibility that that deal wasn't going to happen. And so we were reporting that he was open to the Tottenham move, which he was, because it wouldn't have got this far down the line had it not. And if you think about why it's hurting so much now with regard to the two teams that are involved, it is Arsenal and it is Tottenham Hotspur. So that is a big problem because neither club is necessarily going to want to show their hand, because the risk is if you miss out, then you're going to get a situation like this, which makes me think, because it started emerging that Tottenham Hotspur were in talks and we weren't getting guided away from that, there must have been a degree of optimism and confidence that that deal was going to happen. So I think it's probably come as a shock to Tottenham Hotspur as well as it has to their fans. So I can only tell you, you might not want to hear like what I'm saying. This is the information that I've been receiving during the day, and I can only relay that to you.
Yeah, Dharmesh, just on Spurs, I mean, as you said about the club must be kind of can't believe what's happened, but what kind of is the sense among Daniel Levy? Because as you see on social media, there is going to be a lot of anger now, and I think he'll know that. So do we know what kind of how Spurs are feeling about this deal? Are they must be dumbfounded that they haven't managed to get this deal?
So a colleague of mine has been speaking to Spurs. Their feeling is now that they've accepted that he's going to go to Arsenal and that they're going to move on to alternative targets. Who those alternative targets are, you know, that will have to emerge in the next 12 days or so. But you would think that, you know, they would have done due diligence on a number of other players as well as Eberechi Eze, and they'll hope, and Tottenham fans will hope, that they'll be in a position to accelerate on some other deals now, because there's quite a lot of time has been spent trying to get this Eze deal over the line. And as I mentioned before, I think they felt confident that it was going to happen. Now they're in a situation where it looks like almost certainly it's not going to happen, and there's only 12 days left. So then they need to start acting and acting quite quickly, I think.
It is, I know for a lot of fans out there that will feel the same, utter negligence that has been displayed by the hierarchy in the board on certain negotiations over this summer, which I know when you go through the Gibbs-White saga, which was hard enough to suffer, and then a player that, again, we look at as an alternative 10, in Eberechi Eze, to not get either of those deals over the line. I mean, what would I think worry a lot of fans, Dharmesh, I don't know how you can comment on this, is that how quickly Arsenal appeared to have got those terms, got those fees agreed with Palace, where it feels like for Tottenham, this has been 9 to 10, 11, 12 days of negotiating for a player where Arsenal have come in and very quickly not only concluded the deal for the player, but also concluded the fee ever so quickly. Can you explain how...
No, but you got to remember as well, Ricky, the terms and whether Eberechi Eze wanted to come to Arsenal is not just in the last 24 hours.
No,
right?
I think we're all well aware that Eze, it felt from a lot of fans out there, I think his preference had been to join Arsenal over the course of the summer, which is why Tottenham didn't show maybe that initial interest and why we backed off. But obviously that feeling of us going back in now in genuine belief we're going to get this player, and for it not to happen, and for how quickly Arsenal have acted in terms of getting a fee arranged with Palace ever so quickly, in regards to how you look at the comparison, Tottenham have been negotiating with Palace now for nearly a week in terms of getting a fee together. Arsenal in the space of 6 hours, and I've got to tell you how Tottenham fans feel. Tottenham fans have come into today feeling, surely we must be getting closer to a deal here. And in the space of 6 hours or less than 6 hours, not only have Arsenal come back in for the player, they've gone and got a fee agreed with Palace. And that, I think, is, for a lot of fans out there, this feels like it's typical Daniel Levy, where every negotiation is a war. I know you can't really comment on that because, again, you are here.
No, but also you've got to remember, Ricky, that when these deals get done and when they're getting discussed, probably the last thing that happens will be the direct club-to-club contact and the actual agreement of the fee, because what clubs normally do, they will be exploring the conditions of a deal. They'll be speaking via intermediaries whether the player actually would want to come. And so with that in mind, Tottenham will have had encouragement to carry on with this deal because they would have had encouragement that the player was open to the move. That's why they pursued this deal. Arsenal knew that Eberechi Eze was very, very open to that move at the start of the window, but because a lot of other factors came into play, like other targets that they had, trying to tie Nwaneri down to a new contract and then sales, it became a little bit slow on that part and a little bit almost, is this deal going to happen or not? And so I think Eze, from his perspective, clearly at his age as well, I think he's 27 years old now, wants to play Champions League, right? He's at Crystal Palace. They're going to be in the Europa Conference League. He wants to play Champions League football, because how many more opportunities is he going to get at his age to be able to go to a club who's got Champions League football? So hence why you've got two clubs who have come in for him, who can both offer him Champions League football. So the idea of both he's going to be open to. But the fact of the matter is, Arsenal will have done a lot of work earlier on in the window to try and get this deal done. And maybe at the start, Tottenham Hotspur might have taken a back seat and thought, right, he's probably going there. It just feels a lot harder to take this time around with 12 days to go, because the turnaround has seemed to have happened so quickly, from it being an agreement almost in principle with Tottenham to now being almost a done deal with Arsenal.
I mean, we know football moves very, very fast, Dharmesh, and we know, as you said there, Tottenham will probably be looking now at alternative targets. What do you think the damage does for... You said Daniel Levy there will be obviously considering now other options. How quickly can Tottenham pivot from this? You know, we know the club have got obviously interest in Savinho. It's a different area of the pitch at the moment. Do you feel the club will be looking to accelerate fast to alternative targets in this next week or so? Because clearly the number 10 area is a position that Tottenham have been trying to fill now for a lot of this summer. And it goes beyond James Maddison's injury. It goes beyond Dejan Kulusevski's injury, I think. You know, again, it's an area that Tottenham are really lacking genuine creativity in. I think, look, we can all safely say Kudus on the wing is a great option for Tottenham. You know, again, if they can bring Savinho in to go on the other wing, you know, that does offer an element of real genuine pace. But at the same time, it feels that number 10 area is a massive, massive issue for the football club. And they've now got, 11 and a bit days to try and resolve this. And now it's about going back into the market and finding players. How quickly can Tottenham react, in your opinion, to this?
Well, they've got no choice but to act quickly. We haven't got like 6 weeks left in the window. There's less than 12 days left. Shuts at 7 p.m. on Monday week. So you would hope, if you're a Tottenham fan, that they've done enough work on other targets to be able to pivot too quickly. But clearly this is a blow. I mean, there's no hiding from it. I don't think Tottenham Hotspur are going to hide from it either. The information that my colleague Michael Bridge, who knows a friend of the show as well, has got is that, you know, they're not saying, oh, you know, we've called our interest. There's none of that narrative coming out of Tottenham Hotspur as far as I can see. Their narrative is that Tottenham believe that Eberechi Eze has chosen Arsenal, basically. And
Can I ask you one question before Jamie comes back in? There maybe is a bit of a feeling that from what we've seen in the last few hours with regards to the club offering Richarlison as part of that deal to bring Eze to the club, was that maybe an element of panic that they maybe got wind that Arsenal were coming in, and therefore to try and maybe, in a way, get Palace to still maybe sell to Tottenham rather than Arsenal? They offered Richarlison. Do you see that as part of the optics, or? I mean,
no, that could be. That could be. But remember, Tottenham Hotspur wanted to bring in Johan Wisser as well. I suppose in a way, you could look at it like that. Can they sweeten the deal to Crystal Palace by offering Richarlison? But then you've also got to remember, if Arsenal came in and the player then has made his mind up to go to Arsenal, then is there much a club can do? Because if the club is then saying to the player, oh, we've agreed a deal with Tottenham, you're going to have to go there, he might say, oh, I don't want to go there now because Arsenal are the club I want to go to because they can do a deal on the terms that maybe we had agreed to doing. But remember, I mean, Palace would have every right to have rejected Arsenal and then accepted the Tottenham deal again if it had been more attractive to them. But then, you know, we're reading stuff into, you know, whys, ifs and maybes with regard to Richarlison. Like, we're saying it from his point of view, the information we have, that he didn't want to go and he wants to stay at Tottenham. Who's to say that actual Crystal Palace wanted Richarlison? Who was it that suggested it? Was it Tottenham looking to sweeten the deal with Richarlison, or were Crystal Palace saying, well, look, if you involve Richarlison in the deal, then maybe we can do business? That's something we might not know because it looks like the deal's not happening now. So, yeah, you make a good point. I think, you know, when did that part of the deal start, really? I mean, I first heard of it this afternoon, because that was only because I was speaking to some of the people involved in the deal to take Johan Wissa to Newcastle. And they were telling me, I mean, when he was telling me, I was like, this is outlandish. How can this actually be true? I couldn't actually believe it when he was saying, yeah, so Tottenham want Eze and Tottenham are willing to give them Richarlison as part of the deal so that they can get Johan Wissa from Newcastle. That's how he knew about it, because he's clearly doing the deal to try and get Wissa from Brentford to Newcastle rather than Tottenham. So, look, you could be right, but it's overall, it doesn't look great on that part of it either, because you've got to start wondering what Richarlison is thinking.
What's Richarlison thinking?
Yeah.
What's Richarlison
exactly
thinking?
that? Exactly. Especially after the weekends he's had.
So your understanding quickly, just before I hand over to Jamie, Dharmesh, your understanding on Wissa as things stands, he wants that move to Newcastle. Is that your understanding at the moment? He wants that move to Newcastle?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
That's the information we're getting at the moment. But listen, these things can change. We know. Today is a case in point. But if everything else we've been told is to be believed, then for Tottenham to get someone like Wissa, I don't know whether they want to maybe release one of their forward players, like a Richarlison or somebody else. Because, I mean, you'll have to remind me. You'll know better than me. I'm had a long day. How many? Who are the forwards? Who are the players who could realistically play in the number 9 role for Tottenham?
What about Richarlison and Solanke?
Solanke. Yeah. Tell, you could argue, could play there, could he?
He could, but I'll be honest with you, I think we all agree Tell, I can see Jamie wanting to come in there. I don't think Tell is a capable enough forward. I think we're at a point with Tell where we're not quite sure what he is at this stage. And I think Thomas Frank is still figuring that out, which is why Tottenham are looking for a winger. Jamie, come in there for us. I know you're keen to come in.
Yeah, just on Eze, I mean, my slight fear is that clubs will know that we're desperate. Obviously, we've been all in on Eze. So I'm just worrying that maybe clubs, that when we go for these alternatives, they're going to start thinking, they know that we're desperate and they can up the price. Do you think that might be a concern for Spurs?
Jamie, that's a natural thing that happens in transfer windows, particularly late on. And you know what? Tottenham Hotspur will have taken advantage of that very thing when they sometimes try and buy players as well, because they will maybe smell what they believe to be perceived desperation on the sign of a selling club. So that can happen. I mean, if effectively Tottenham Hotspur in a package were willing to pay around £60 million initial payment, if you take both deals into account, if it was including Richarlison, or indeed if it was just a straight cash deal for Eze. So clubs who now know that Tottenham Hotspur are after a player in that position are naturally going to try and raise the price. Of course, that is going to happen, but then that will happen for every single club. And Tottenham Hotspur, for on this occasion where they'll be on the receiving end potentially of that, they have been the ones who have taken advantage of it in the past as well. So can work both ways. That.
Why do you think, Dharmesh, it's been for Tottenham such a complicated? Why was it such a complicated negotiation between them and Palace for Eze? That might be an easy question to answer because, again, it's a player that Palace, for them, it's probably one of their best ever players. It's a player that they've not wanted to let go. But as I said earlier, it just feels, I know for a lot of fans out there that have followed Tottenham for many, many years and have seen so many failed transfers, so many high-profile failed transfers throughout the ENIC tenure, throughout the Levy tenure. It feels it's always, when it goes into a negotiation with Daniel Levy, it always feels like it's a war. And there never, ever seems to be a straightforward deal. And I appreciate the level of player that you go for and the higher profile player you go for, the harder the deal is to negotiate. But you're a clever man and you have seen the transfer window and been there for so many years seeing deals be done. The optics of this just looks so, so bad. To not only go in for a player of this quality, but to lose him to your most bitter rivals. And like I said earlier, the fact that Arsenal have agreed the fee, it appears, with Palace in such quick succession, and Tottenham have been at that negotiation table for, it feels, well over a week. Why does it feel like that for us fans? I don't know if you can comment on this. Why these negotiations are so difficult, or is it? Or is this
answer to your question?
Or are we over-analysing this? Are we
No.
over-analysing?
On this particular one, I don't think the negotiation was complicated. So you had a situation.
Why is it taking a week? What's taking a week?
No, but a week. I mean, transfers take longer than a week.
No, but I mean, in terms of what we've, and it's no disrespect to you personally.
Yeah.
What we've heard from the grapevine, and can I just say something? Sky, at no point in this last 24, 48 hours, Sky Sports have not claimed this deal to be done, and have not claimed the deal.
It wasn't.
Yeah. So this is obviously not a dig at Sky at all whatsoever. And I'm just commenting on the fact that we've heard a lot of the same reports over the last 24, 48 hours being regurgitated that the move is close, they're advancing, they're edging, they're getting closer and closer. And I understand deals like this magnitude don't just happen in a week. There's foundations that are laid months before for these deals. But the feeling is, when you see so many reports of how quickly Arsenal have come together in the last 5-6 hours, which again might be completely inaccurate, I don't know. And in fact, Spurs have sat here for what appears to be maybe well over a week trying to get a deal done. Arsenal have come in, agreed to pay the terms, allegedly faster payment terms, allegedly easier on the add-ons, what you ever want to believe. That is where you can understand there's a lot of frustration from Tottenham fans, right?
Yes. But in answer to the question about whether it was like a complex and complicated deal to do, I'm not sure it was on this particular one, because if you look at the start of the window, there's a release clause in place, right? For Eberechi Eze. It was £60 million plus £8 million in performance-related add-ons. So he took control of that. That's where the control was in Eberechi Eze's hands and in the control of any interested clubs. So anyone before the season started, because we think the release clause expired on the Friday, on the day before the season started. So anybody could have come in with this deal. Now, what should be said is we're not privy to what the actual structure of the deal was. So sometimes clubs will look at 60 plus 8 and think that's a reasonable deal for Eberechi Eze, but we don't know what kind of structure and how many payments it would have required. So that's probably why some of the clubs who were interested didn't trigger that release clause, because if they had done, Palace could have done nothing about it and it would have just been, you can talk to the player. Once that release clause is done, Crystal Palace can ask for what they want. Now, it's emerging now from a few reports that the agreement in principle with Arsenal is not far away from the release clause, 60 million initial plus add-ons. Now, if you think about if the deal, if we're to believe what we're hearing, that the deal was as good as agreed with Tottenham Hotspur yesterday or whenever it was, then you're asking the question, how have Arsenal acted so quickly to get that deal agreed as well? Well, in a way, Tottenham have negotiated with Crystal Palace and come up with a figure. So if anyone else comes in and Eze wants to go to that club, they know what it's going to take to get the player. There's not a case of Arsenal needing to negotiate or outbid Tottenham Hotspur or do a different deal to Tottenham Hotspur. If they can match what Tottenham Hotspur have got, Crystal Palace, unless they've got a real preference, no, we don't want you to go to Arsenal, or we don't want you to go to Tottenham Hotspur, they will just say, we've got these two deals now. Then the power then once again lies with the player. That's when Eze gets the power again. Because before, any club can meet his release clause and he can talk to them if he wants to. Now, Crystal Palace have to agree with the club before he's allowed to speak to them. So once the deal is agreed between the two clubs, they can say to Eberechi Eze, right, we can now give you permission officially to talk to these two clubs we have agreed the deal with. Then it's up to you who you want to sign for. So it's come down to Eze at the end of the day, because both clubs have got an agreement with Crystal Palace.
It's sick. I have to just say I'm sorry. It is utterly sickening. It's just, I mean, it's not your fault. Listen, Darbs, you know we love you on this show. It's sickening. Go on, Jay. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dharmesh, we've obviously made it clear that we're frustrated with the amount of time that's taken. But as you said, it's not, a week for a deal isn't probably the longest amount of time. I guess the other concern was that there an issue from Palace's side in terms of holding the deal up? Because obviously he's going to play on Thursday in their Europa League conference game.
I mean, or is he now? I mean, or is he now? I mean, Dom, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, as of today, he's due to play in this game tomorrow, and if the Tottenham Hotspur deal was agreed as well, and Oliver Glasner has since said that he will be playing tomorrow, knowing that this deal with Tottenham Hotspur had been agreed, then I still wouldn't be surprised if he was to play tomorrow, because as far as Crystal Palace are concerned, they want to prolong their participation in the Europa Conference League, and the best chance they'll have of that, of winning this playoff, if they've got their best players there. Hence why, as it stands, Eze and Guehi will both play in this game tomorrow night to try and build, who knows, try and put the tie to bed in the first leg, and then maybe then, the deal can be done, because they might not be needed for the second leg and they'll be in the group stages. That's going to be Crystal Palace's call. But then I'm sure also there will be talks between Arsenal and Crystal Palace over his participation tomorrow. Because the last thing Arsenal want to do, if they've agreed the deal, is to get risk an injury to the player. But if we take it on face value, Oliver Glasner says that they're both available. They're both trained today, and they're both available for the game tomorrow.
Dams, we really appreciate you coming on to the show. Like I say, we appreciate it wasn't as we planned it to. I think we're all in a state of shock, which I know for many that are Arsenal fans are probably enjoying seeing my face like this right now. But I am absolutely sickened by this last 12, 24 hours. But it is the transfer window. As you always say on Sky, quite simply, anything can happen. And it has. Dams, we're going to, like I say, let you go in a second. We're going to be obviously following you throughout the window. Tell us where we can find you before we bring in a panel that's going to try and pick apart what you've just given us in this last half an hour. The inside story is how Eberechi Arsenal is going to be an Arsenal player. Where can we find you, Doms?
Yeah, so on X and on Insta at SkySports_chef.
Doms, you're a star. Jamie, thank you so much. Jamie is going to be back with me later, of course, in this week and next week, where we are going to be finding out, Jamie, if Tottenham... Is it wrong to say, Jamie, if Tottenham can rescue this window, Jamie? Is that a wrong-term rescue when they have brought Kudus to the club? They brought Polina to the club, but it does feel now we're gearing up for a massive, massive week for Tottenham. It's a massive week in terms of what comes for this window, surely now. What comes next?
In terms of, we know we need more. Of course, that in terms of salvaging the window, yes, we definitely need to do more. I mean, it's at the moment, we've lost three key players in Kulusevski, Son and Maddison, all three of our top assisters, and we were a team that finished 17th last season. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. But yeah, in terms of targets, there are other top players out there. But look, there's no hiding from the fact that we all desperately wanted Eberechi Eze. We all felt like he was, as I said at the top of the show, a perfect fit for Tottenham. But I guess the only thing you can look at it as is that you don't want a player at Spurs that wants to be at Arsenal.
Agree. I agree with that.
That's the only. But I guess a lot of people would just say that's that's me just trying to cope with the situation. But we'll see. I mean, look, there's other top players out there. We know that we've been targeting other top players, and they've got to go and deliver them now. I'm certainly not holding my breath. I kind of felt as though the fact that they didn't bother or didn't do anything before the Super Cup when we had a chance to win a major European trophy, I think it's the only time in my lifetime, I think, and obviously for most of us, that we're going to see Spurs in a Super Cup final, and they didn't decide to. Obviously, Kudus and Palace knew with any people they brought in, so that's it. But we'll see what happens.
Jamie, thank you so much. Darms, thank you so much. Look, we're going to go for our first break of the show. For our listeners that are on audio, where we're going to be bringing in Jonathan Hamme, Billie T, George Achillia are going to be joining us, where we'll be discussing the fallout from Eberechi Eze, who is going to be an Arsenal player, and where Tottenham go from here. It's going to be quite simply a interesting next week or so in the win about what Tottenham do next, and helping me do that on this show in this next break is going to be Billy, George, and Johnny, who are going to be coming into focus right now on what has been a crazy, guys, last 24 hours for this football club. I mean, Billy and Johnny were with me here 24 hours ago, where maybe there was a sense of panic about the fact Tottenham hadn't done the deal for Eberechi Eze yet. George, bless him, I've known George for 7-8 years, one of the most optimistic but also reasonable fans are out there. I mean, we'll come to you, Bill, here first. And can I just say on this point, when I say it's anything to anybody, Change for Spurs did a protest at the weekend where it didn't get the numbers that it did get a few months ago. I just wonder now, Bill, your position, obviously being a member at Change for Spurs, and also on the back of this news, the optics of not only losing out on Eberechi Eze, but losing out to him to go to Arsenal. Oh, Billy, try and explain to me what this looks like.
Mate, you know what? My overall feeling is humiliation at the moment. I feel like, and the sick thing for me is it's fans that have to face humiliation. Like Daniel Levy will not be sitting around now being bantered by Arsenal fans, going into stadiums, being in a social circle of Arsenal fans, getting texts. It's fans that have to face the brunt of this humiliation, and I don't think that's really fair. But we protested last week with the fact that, for me personally, there's nothing Daniel Levy can do anymore to convince me that he deserves the benefit of the doubt. And I would never ever, that I've been on this podcast many times. I'm never in the business of telling fans how they should feel, what they should do. I just simply think, what I believe. And last week, I didn't believe that there was enough that he could do to deserve the benefit of the doubt. I thought it was really excited to be linked with Eze and Savinho, but there's still, time and time again we get let down. We went on that podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about, this is two brilliant transfers, but how many times have we been here and then been let down? This is another one, mate. It's added to a long list that's already way too long, and I think his position is becoming untenable. But in answer to your original question, there is a huge appetite for protest at the moment. This is the latest in a long line of humiliation. And as I was saying at the beginning, it's fans that have to bear that humiliation, and I don't think that's fair. So definitely keep your eye on Change for Tottenham, as we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But, mate, how many times are we going to be here now? There's surely nowhere left to turn for this chairman.
Johnny, you look how we feel. I'll be honest with you. I know this has been crazy last 6, 7, 8 hours. And when we spoke earlier in the evening, I said to you, we're getting wind of what we were hearing. And we both, I think, on that phone call kind of just were sick to our stomach by the fact of the interest there. And there was that concern really throughout this window, the fact that if they come back in, we know what the consequences would be. I mean, give me your feelings in summary of how Eberechi Eze is not a Tottenham player, but he's going to Arsenal.
Listen, for every Spurs fan out there, I have sympathy. I feel sick to my stomach. For it to happen again, like it's happened so many times, it is terrible. But for it to happen against Arsenal, to lose out to Arsenal is too much to bear. You know, as Billy just said, my phone's been ringing. I've had to put it on silent. You know, mates and everyone I know who's an Arsenal fan laughing at us. Even fans that aren't Arsenal fans laughing at us. We have become an absolute joke. Morgan Gibbs-White, only we could find a player that gets held hostage, right, and gets taken away. Only us. I don't. Ricky, do me a favour, please don't put up Eberechi Eze's picture again tonight, please. Right, I know you want to press that button and put Eze's picture up. I don't want to see him. Please don't hit the button. Not while I'm talking. So I think that, you know, 10 days. I heard what Dharmesh said. You know, he can spin that. But listen, we've had 10 days doing this deal, right? Yes, they wanted it, but they could have. There are things that they could have done. There are various things they could have done to get this deal done. It's just not acceptable. And you know, we spoke about the drop-off. If we didn't get Eze, how big would the drop-off be to the next in line? You know, we heard the story that Eze was never his first choice. Well, if his first choice wasn't Eze, we know it was Morgan Gibbs-White. And if it wasn't Morgan Gibbs-White, we know it was Eze. And if Morgan Gibbs-White, it wasn't Eze, who's the next? Because what's happened is we've been sat on an island waiting and watching as players drifted on by, being taken up by other clubs, player after player after player. Nottingham Forest did 3 deals in one day. Yeah? Arsenal have done 6 deals this transfer window, and not small deals either. Yes, some have taken the time. But we, yet again, are sit there in an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment, how we managed to destroy deal after deal after deal. And it's not the first, is it? We've got Dybala, we've got Morgan Gibbs-White. I mean,
there's so many.
Coutinho.
Williams, Fernandes, Matinho,
Grealish, Mane, Hazard. We could have had Bruno Fernandes, but no, we didn't pay the money, so we bought Gedson Fernandes. The list is endless. It's an endless embarrassment for the supporters of this football club. Just when you thought, what's the saying? Just when you thought it was safe to get back in the water, the shark comes along and takes your legs away. And that's how I feel tonight. I feel like, and I'm sure many Spurs fans feel, sick to the stomach that their legs have been taken away. Just when we thought we could finally breathe and relax and look towards a future of a bright future, we're back where we started again with our legs kicked away. And it's not right. It's not fair. And for it to be Arsenal, of all people, and as Billy quite rightly said, Daniel Levy will go to bed tonight, he'll put his head on that pillow and he will sleep soundly, whereas Spurs fans won't.
George, let me bring you in. I mean, mate, we've had you on here for 7-8 years. You know, we've had great moments, bad moments, lovely moments, horrible moments. This is a tough one. I'll be honest with you, it's a show that maybe part of us, we had a scare this could happen, which is maybe why we did, as it has been known, really back off at the earlier part of the window. To then go back in, George, and not get the player. And the circumstances around how quickly it feels Arsenal have not only gone back in, but got that deal done. The optics of this, George, look horrendous, don't they? The optics of this and how quickly it's been done. It's a sickening moment. What can you say? I am lost for words. You know, again, I'm normally someone that tries to offer some kind of hope because, again, we have got 11 and a half days left, but it's going to take some recovery for us all to get back off our feet to genuinely believe this can still be a real good end to the window, George. Is that fair? Am I being unfair, George, on that?
No, I think that's totally fair. I think it's quite ironic that we weren't going for him heavy at the start of the window because we didn't want to get embarrassed by losing to Arsenal in a race for him. They called off, so we went back, and look what's happened. They've had an injury, and all of a sudden they get it done pretty much within a day. All right, they may have laid the groundworks or whatever, but let's be real. they just matched it and probably offered something better. And if when he's choosing between Spurs and Arsenal, he's always going to choose Arsenal. And I think it's just the lack of planning. I think has just been an absolute joke, to be honest, because we all probably would have all said a number 10 was needed regardless of the Maddison injury and what else has happened. And I think if Maddison wasn't injured, we probably would have been more open to the idea of maybe like a younger up and coming player like El Khanous, for example, or Harvey Elliott, just to throw names out there. But since that Maddison injury, I think it's just exacerbated how important that position is for us. And you're seeing the likes of what Arsenal are doing with an injury from a few days ago. They find out how bad it is yesterday or today, and all of a sudden they've gone back for their top target. Whereas what did I see? It was Morgan Gibbs-White like 28 days ago that fell apart, and then and Maddison's injury was 17 days ago or something like that. And then now Arsenal have basically done it within a day, realised there's an issue and fixed it. And that's after, like Johnny said there, after they've already made 5 signings or so, quite decent signings. So I think there's no way to spin this. This looks awfully on the club, and they've only got 11 days now to quote unquote rectify it. And I just don't. I don't really see how they're going to do that, because if we're fighting over a few million to try and save a deal and take a week to get this Eze one over the line, who supposedly has been a top target for Spurs for the last 5 years since he's been when he was at QPR.
Probably longer than that, but yeah, you're right.
How can we expect to believe that all of a sudden we're going to go back in for Savinho and we're going to match the 67 or whatever supposedly is that City one, or then we still need to get a number 10 regardless anyway, and who is that going to be? And I think in my eyes, like, the players that I do like are obviously like Akliouche, and I think Nico Paz has always been a top player that I would love, but there's so few that we actually could get. That Paz is holding out for Real Madrid, it seems. Are we actually interested and want to go for Akliouche? Is it the right move? It's still, as much as there's talent there, you're still talking about a young player that's not necessarily proven anything. So I don't really know what we can do to sort of salvage this, to be honest with you.
Mars, your face looks like how we feel. I mean, we had we were actually on the phone together when that news came through from David Ornstein, and we both we knew what was coming. I mean, what's your reaction to this now, where Spurs find themselves with 11 and a bit days left of this window? The optics look shocking. And everybody knows, the same as the Gibbs-White saga, we've got 60 million there waiting to splash on a number 10. So suddenly, if you thought you was in a war before with Daniel Levy in terms of negotiations, get ready. Because these next 10 days, everybody knows who's number 10. It's going to be a battle out there, isn't it? It's going to be a battle. No matter who we go in for next, everyone knows we've got money that are going to be spent for a player.
Look, Levy's got nowhere to hide on this one, because the overlap interview just said he deals with the negotiations. This is all on him. Like, there's nowhere to go from it. He cannot go anywhere and hide from this, because when it comes down to it, it's the negotiation part that killed it. And it looks like, I don't know how true this is, but Arsenal basically matched it and said that he can play tomorrow. I don't know if that's still going on. I don't know what's happened in the last half an hour, but that was the reason, part of the reason why I was holding up. But where I stand on it all is, look, when we said Levy needs to be out of this club, most people denied it and said, no, he's doing a great job. He's doing this, he's doing that. Now look where we are. This is completely on us. We had time to get all together, and try and force this man to get to change. And then all of a sudden we are here. We are literally here. And regarding Savio, Manchester City are now looking at this going, well, now you're desperate. Whatever they quoted today ain't going to be what they're going to quote next week. We're screwed no matter where we go now from here, because other clubs are going to look at it and go, you have got an upset fan base. You're going to need to do anything to appease them. They're going to be adding millions on, or they won't sell them and be like, got nothing on us. We are stuck. We're screwed. I'm sorry to say it, but this is typical Spurs. This is nothing new. But I said at the beginning, I think when the whole Gibbs-White thing happened, when we had Gibbs-White and Kudos within those 2 days, and I remember coming on there and I said, I did believe we'd get Gibbs-White over the line, but I was saying, this is not Tottenham. Something's going to go wrong. And as per usual, it did. Kudos was an easy deal. It's the only reason why we got it over the line. The rest, when it came to Gibbs-White, okay, it was there. But then Eze was, from the sounds of it, Eze wasn't easy. Marinakis and Parish have probably seen the overlap and gone, you know what? You think you're the Don round here? No, we are. We know how to negotiate. We know how to do things. We know how to get the best deal for our clubs. And that's exactly what they've done. They've both pulled one over Levy because Levy's known as this tough negotiator. That's the reputation he has. And they've both gone, all right, Gibbs White signed a new contract and Crystal Palace have got what they want from Arsenal. But you got to remember the whole David Raya situation when we were trying to buy David Raya. And again, Arsenal came in, got him over the line and bought him. Somehow Arsenal seem to get things done when it needs to happen. We don't. So, look,
you can see exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, there's going to be Morgan Rogers links tomorrow morning.
Already had a couple, mate.
Well, there you go. Like, it's going to be like, oh yeah, we're in for him, 60 million, and then they're going to reject it. Say, yeah.
No, it makes me laugh as well. Is that they're saying Spurs have moved on to other targets. Well, if we moved on to other targets like we did with Gibbs White, then the move to Eze, none of it's going to get done before the transfer window closes. So
we'll get them in January.
January. I mean, the thing is,
we are.
I was just going to say, the thing is that I said a few days ago, the only thing that worried me is that Arsenal have a very good relationship with Crystal Palace. They did Nketiah, no problem, nice, smooth and easy deal. And I did worry that, that maybe Kiwior, because he was linked to going to Porto, just maybe, we mentioned that, maybe he'd go to Palace instead of going to Porto. If Gahey went, but I mean, do you think that's going to end up being that will come out that maybe that's a make weight in the deal? Do you think that will actually be a case that they've offered a player and cash and a player that suits Crystal Palace?
Possibly. I mean, the thing what was quite telling for me is that, and Johnny, you can come back and answer this, is that in these last few hours, by the fact that we were open to offering them Richarlison, the optics behind that just screams to me, panic, take somebody. What can we do to sweeten this deal? What can we do to get this deal over the line? It just feels now, even from that perspective, again, I don't think everyone is saying Richarlison is the key figurehead at the club, but suddenly, how does he feel about maybe being pushed out the door? I mean, what damage
after the last weekend as well, 2 goals.
Yeah,
that he's a confidence player, that guy.
Yeah,
it's terrible. The optics are absolutely shocking. I mean, here's a guy who's on confidence breeds confidence, right? We've seen it last 3 games, getting more and more confidence. The goals start coming. He's buzzing. He's there with his wife, the baby. Everything's hunky-dory. And all of a sudden, you have to read in the press, oh, by the way, we tried to out you to Crystal Palace. Not out you to a club in the Champions League. Go there. You can be as a make-weight. Not even as the star man, like a make-weight. You can be on the bench for what? Mateta? I mean, give me a break. It's outrageous.
And best believe they wouldn't have known about it. Him and his agents wouldn't have known about it at all. Spurs would have just sprung it as like a last-minute offer.
Well, I mean, look, the thing is, what have you got here? You've killed the fan base, right? You've killed the confidence of the player. And how did this work? It's like you dropped a bomb and left the building.
It's untenable. His position should be untenable as chairman. We know that it won't be, but there's no way that, from a logistical, business, optics point of view, he should not be able to survive this transfer window with the 2 incredible humiliations that we've had. His position should be untenable. Of course, we all know the reality is he'll be absolutely fine, and there's no one really holding him to account for anything. But he's monumentally embarrassed our club this transfer window again.
I just don't know how season, 2 in 1 window. The Morgan Gibbs White one was laughable. I mean, we somehow managed to laugh it off, even though we were fuming, because the comical nature of Marinakis' performance and everything that went about from that. But look how he's handled that situation. They have signed. I've lost count how many players they've signed.
They're about to sign Douglas Luiz as well.
7 or 8 players. I think they bought the 2 guys from Botafogo. I mean, the list is endless. And players that I wouldn't have minded seeing at Spurs, let me tell you. So, they're moving forward. We're treading water. 11 days to go, and now we're running around, with a bag full of money, begging someone to take it.
I mean, even look at the fact that Vinay Venkatesham, who's come from Arsenal to Tottenham, is here, and we've just gone and lost out on a player to go to Arsenal. I mean, it's just Andrea Berta, their sporting director. Oh, when that gets announced, I feel like we just need to go into hiding. We do need to talk about what is how are we going to react with 10.5 days to go, and how we do somehow pick ourselves back up, because this is the point, Miles, coming over to you. As I said to Johnny there, everybody knows Tottenham have now got money to spend. So like you said, anybody else that we're moving for as an alternative target, suddenly, Marlon, that price just becomes inflated. And you thought it makes it even harder to try and get a deal done for players in these next 10 days, right?
The other problem is who actually wants to come. Other players are watching this circus go on, and they're probably looking at it going, "Oh, why do I want to go there for?"
They're probably thinking, if I do that, I can join Arsenal.
Yeah, join Arsenal. Yeah, so it's the weirdest situation to be in, because I think what Johnny was saying about, obviously, after the Gibbs White bit, I think we all had in our head Eze was a replacement that we had in our head that we probably could just go out and get. So it was like, okay, he's still available, but now that's gone and that's off the table. Are we just bringing someone in for the sake of it as well? That's the other issue we've got, because the number 10, if it's the number 10 that we're going to try and go for, it's kind of in a scenario of you just don't want to go and get anybody either, because if you're in a desperate situation and this player then don't pull down trees, we're stuck again, and then we're stuck with a player we got to try and offload in like 18 months or 12 months. So it's beggars belief to where I can't see where we go from here. I think it's a case of the only thing that saves this window is if Daniel Levy quits in the next 11 days. And I think that would be the only thing where we all go, you know what, actually, best window ever, because we know we ain't got, in future windows, it possibly could change. Because this, where do you go? What other players are going to seriously look at this club? Because that's the other thing. We've been hung out to dry now twice, and you're thinking other players now want to actually come, and it's not even from two big clubs. This is Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace. These players are coming from, so it shouldn't have been as hard as we've made it out to be. And we have. Being
funny, you can't survive in an era like a football era where Brentford are signing Utara for 42.5 million and expect to haggle over prices and add-ons for players like Eze. It's just not going to happen. They're stuck in the past.
Yeah.
There was me worried that we were going to sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin, right? And I thought, phew, breathe a sigh of relief, he's gone. Now I'm worried we're going to sign Jamie Vardy. It's got that bad. It's got that bad.
Dele Alli's still available. He could come.
I look at the other options out there now, and I mean, this is the thing. You said it the other night, Johnny. The problem is the optics of not getting Eze done. That drop-off of quality now, in terms of what else is out there. Are we going to be bringing a player in for the sake of bringing a player in? But we're still in the same predicament, George, that we haven't got James Maddison for the majority of the season. Realistically, we haven't got Dejan Kulusevski for what appears to be until maybe September, October. It feels this is still a position that Tottenham are going to need to try and identify somebody, right? I mean, are you still in agreement that we definitely are going to need to bring in a number 10? Obviously, it's not going to be Eze now. It's not going to be Morgan Gibbs-White. Then you start thinking, okay, who are the other options out there? I mean, I know you like the look of Nico Paz being a potential option for Tottenham. But after that, really, the ironic thing is that I was hearing in the last few days that Paratici was actually assisting Crystal Palace in giving them alternative options as number 10s for Eze. And now the irony is that we're going to have to rely on him to help us with alternative number 10s. I mean, George, maybe just talk about, for you, what options do you think are out there that are obtainable, given what we know is Daniel Levy's style of negotiation, which hopefully we can bring to this football club? Because it feels like now that any negotiation we go in between now and the end of the window, we know there's going to be a sense of panic if we can get it done.
100%. And I really think, to be honest, in terms of options that are actually gettable, I think it's just so limited now. I think we've left it so long. I think in terms of players in and around that you could have possibly have gone for, I think Paqueta was one, but then you've got to look at the idea. And I think that was a good option, to be honest, but you've got to then think that West Ham absolutely not going to sell us 2 of their talisman players in one window. So you can, even though they're apparently open to selling him, you can consider that off the cards. Nico Paz is a player I love, but I think that's completely off the cards because everything that's coming out of Italy pretty much is that he's developing in Como again for another year with a look to go back to Real Madrid next year, or even the year after, because I think they've got a buy option the year after as well. So that's off the cards. For me, then you have El Canus, which is someone that a lot of people brought up, but apparently that's the player that Paratici has done a deal with to bring to Crystal Palace. So if that has actually been agreed and is done, then he's off the cards as well. So in my eyes, that basically leaves Akliushu as someone that everyone's been, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have asked about, who's also a winger, right winger. Harvey Elliott is still available. That's another option that probably will crop up again in the next few days. And then really and truly looking at other players, I would not be surprised, even if we go back for someone like Kobbie Mainoo, who I know is not really a number 10, but he's out of favour at Man United, English player, is barely getting any minutes there at all. I would not be surprised to see someone like that being linked to him, and Frank will just somehow have to work with him, even though he actually has done quite well in a slightly forward role at Man United in a few games, but he's not a classic 10 at all. So I do worry that the options out there that are of a level that we need are just extremely slim.
The difference is, George, I mean, Eze was the game changer. When you're playing against the low block and you can't break them down, Eze can just drop his shoulder and bang one at the top corner. We don't have a player like that. And let's be honest, I don't really believe Morgan Rogers is that player, and he's not going to come anyway. I don't know if any of those players that we're linked with are really that type of player, to be honest.
It's going to be a gamble, whoever it is, because it's not going to be someone that is well known now, is it? Because like you say, Rogers is. I really like Rogers, but again, it's just they're asking for 100 million, close to 100 million. It's not going to happen.
I'm going to quickly fit in our next break of the show for our listeners on audio. Look, we have got over 32,000 of you that are watching the show live, which is half of what goes into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and comes back out.
Most of them are Arsenal fans, probably, isn't it?
Probably, yeah. Probably a lot of them are Arsenal fans.
Hi guys, meltdown in progress.
I tell you. Thank you so much. If we've got a couple of Spurs fans out there that are watching this show, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We are hearing some news coming through from Fabrizio Romano that we're going to share with the show right now, and you just wonder how much this is genuine or is being pumped now by the Tottenham PR team, given the nature of the last few hours. So we're going to bring to you what we understand to be the latest in Tottenham trying to move on from both Morgan Gibbs-White and from Eberechi Eze. Sorry, we've had so many foul transfers. They're all coming to mind now, and I'm trying to get through each one of them. We understand now, according to Fabrizio Romano, that Tottenham started making calls in the earlier part of the day to try and understand the situation for new players. One of the dream targets internally is Morgan Rogers. It's seen as a very difficult deal as Villa want to keep. So people in the industry believe this deal is almost seen as impossible. Now, on top of that, we also understand that another name to watch out for between now and in this window is Tyler Dibbling. Everton are in advanced negotiations, but in these last few hours, Tottenham's have come to the table and have been internally mentioned as being a destination for Tyler Dibbling. I know it's hard to say this, guys. It just feels, I can see Marlon's reaction here as well. It feels it's such a come down, isn't it? I mean, George, from Eze, and no disrespect, because, you know, Dibbling's a talented young player. Morgan Rogers also a very, very talented young player. I mean, give me your thoughts, George, on those being two potential targets for Tottenham.
Well, the Dibbling one doesn't even make sense because he's a right winger anyway. So what we're saying then, we're gonna sign him as a new up and coming player to then shift Kudus in the middle, which, as much as yes, Kudus can play in the middle, it just seems like a stupid plan in my opinion to have to shift someone who's clearly been unbelievable on the right wing for us just to shoehorn in a player that we can sign in the summer. Yeah, like you say, look, he is a talented kid, but it's not what we need right now. We've got enough of those in that front line. We need someone who can make an impact now. Rogers obviously could make an impact now, but like I said, yeah, we can explore the deal all we want, but they're just going to come back and say 100 mil or nothing. If we're haggling over 5 mil or whatever it is with
But
Eze
George,
and
you
whatever
know the money
ceiling is.
now. The reality is, with regards to the money,
Exactly.
I think we're at a point now where Tottenham are going to have to, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to stump up now, because everybody knows we've got money. You know, we've made that very clear, because we were, whether people like it or not, we know they've been negotiating for Gibbs White, they've been negotiating for Eze. People know we've got the money. So whether they like it or not, we're going to have to spend the money, George.
Yes, and it's looking like whoever it is going to be minimum 60 million regardless, because that's what it was for Morgan Gibbs White and what it was for Eze. So everyone knows that, even if it is for someone quote unquote cheaper like Harvey Elliott, Liverpool aren't idiots. They know we've got the money for it. They're going to hold out for that much as well, or at least 50 something mil, which is someone, in my opinion, who I think is a good player, but is someone we should have been targeting when Maddison was fit, not when he has to be our out and out 10, which he isn't really. I guess he is, but he's. I don't know. It just doesn't move me at all in the slightest.
Billy, let me come to you. Your thoughts on those potential players being linked to the club, the likes of Diblin, likes of Morgan Rogers. From what we've gone to what we got now, what does that feeling feel like for you?
I feel like Rogers would be a pretty decent alternative. I'm sure that would appease a lot of fans, but it's an unrealistic target. I think we've probably got more chance of signing Morgan Freeman than Morgan Rogers, to be honest with you, mate. But I think you know what the shame is. There are players like Akliouche, who we spoke about at length last night.
Yep.
Players like Dibbling, players like that. These players, if we sign them now, they've just got no chance. The pressure that is crumbling under the weight of the expectation now is too much for players like that, because of the humiliation that our board have put us through, to be honest. So now anyone coming is not only bearing the weight of moving to Tottenham, but they're bearing the weight of moving to Tottenham in place of Eze and in place of Morgan Gibbs White, and that's a really unfair place to be in. Morgan Rogers, don't get me wrong, that'd be a really exciting transfer, but I feel like there are some decent young players like like El Khanous would not be able to stand a chance at appeasing the fan base right now. So Levy's completely shot himself in the foot, really. There's you would have to pull out a rabbit from the hat to have anywhere near make-up ground with the fan base the way that they are. You'd have to go for someone like Leao or Rodrigo to have any chance of making it up. And we just know Tottenham aren't going to do that. So I don't think there's anywhere left of this window that can go where they can recover this now. It's just way too far gone.
Yeah, let me come, if I can, to you, Johnny. And then actually, let me go to Marlon, then I'll come back to Johnny. Miles, Tottenham reportedly made some contact a few days ago with Xavi Simons, but his heart is set on a move to Chelsea. It feels like at the moment, we're getting to that point where we're rapidly going through options, but we do understand that Tottenham are not giving up in their pursuit of Savinho. They're going to try again, despite resistance from Manchester City. It comes back to obviously what the boys are saying here. It's how do you try and appease a fan base that have now lost out on what was seen to be a future figurehead of the football club in, of course, Eberechi Eze. Marlon.
You can't. The problem is now there's no return. There is actually no return. There's no player out there right now that's going to save face for what's happened. No one. The only person that I could probably see if they brought him back would save face would be Harry Kane. That would probably be the only person who could actually come back and save face. But Harry Kane ain't going to leave him by him right now. So for me, look, I still want Savio through the door. I still want him to come, but I full well know it's not going to be what they've quoted this morning. It's going to be an extra £10 million on top of that, which I'm just going to say, look, at this present moment, if we pay it, we pay it. We'll see what happens. But I think he'll be a decent signing coming through the door. However, it's just a case of, is everything that's just happened over the last few weeks, is we're never going to get back. It's literally most of us. I think I've never seen the fan base, actually, I've never seen the fan base so united in this situation when it all broke. Like everybody who was, no matter what side you sat on, no matter what you thought, as soon as the whole Ornstein and the bomber dropped, that was it. The fan base was together. I could see everyone was like, nah, this is embarrassing. This is this is that. And I've never seen that for a while. So, there are some silver linings to this. So, you know what? Let's see what happens over the next 11 days. Look, it's not going to be pretty. It's never going to be, we're not going to be happy no matter who comes through that door now. And let's just, we're going to have to do what we normally do. We're just going to have to suck it up, go to games, and then we'll always be moaning about this window because we are.
The problem is, Johnny, Man City was a tougher test in itself. And I think, the optic being, many people might have given us a great chance against City because we've got a tremendous record there. But we know how tough it is going to City. They're one of the best teams in the world. They've started off the season with a flyer. But had we even not got the greatest result, you'd think, well, you know what? We've got Eze coming. So, it's going to change the landscape for us. My worry is now looking at the optics where I'm not saying we should be going to Man City and blitzing them or winning the game, but my worry is now how that feeling might change in the fan base if Saturday doesn't go so well. And with what's left of the window where we know it does become harder and harder, Johnny, but bless you if you don't mind me saying this, you're around different people in the world, interesting people in the world, in terms of doing deals. It's only going to get harder, isn't it, in these next 9-10 days to try and get any real genuine quality over the line that's going to help improve the squad. Which is on mute. Sorry, John. Let's get you off on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, it took us 10 days to get nowhere with this one. I was ready to set off with in excitement on Monday, thinking 6 o'clock, I'm going to be getting in the car, driving to Manchester for 12:30 kickoff against Manchester City. Excited. It's very hard to be excited getting up at 6 o'clock to drive to Manchester to watch a football game. But I thought, Eze is a very good chance he was going to be there. I never expected this. It feels like we're a scruffy, Tottenham are just this scruffy bunch that are walking down Kensington High Street, and we're looking in the window of Harrods, and we go in and we put a hand in my pocket and see how much money we sneak in through the door, looking at how much we can buy, and we ain't got any of it. And they find us and they throw us out the door, and you're an embarrassment, get out. And that's how I feel. Like, we are an embarrassment. We're an embarrassment. We're a laughing stock to every single club. And, whilst we've been sat here, and I'm guilty of it as well, laughing at Newcastle for every single player they're linked with. No, sorry, don't want to come. No, sorry, don't want to come. We've become that club. In fact, we are the bigger embarrassment of the two clubs now, because who's going to want to come to us? And as I said right at the beginning, we've sat there on the island watching all the ships go by, with the talent on, going to different destinations. And now, as Marlon said before, who is really left out there that is going to make up for missing out on this deal? And the answer is nobody. Rodrigo ain't coming. Savinho, yes, he's a very good player, but it still doesn't get over the fact that we don't have a 10. I felt we needed 2 10s, right? Who starts the season with 1 10? Before James Maddison was injured, I said he's never going to last. We need to go and buy 10, and I wanted to buy Eze, right? So now we're in a situation we got no 10, and we don't have. Where are we going next? Where are we going next? And like the way we do deals, even the Kudos deal wasn't exactly straightforward, was it? Did you not think part of Tottenham's problem is on this point, Johnny, that maybe Palace lesser extent, but we seem to target clubs that have got either severe financial problems or are on the periphery of having issues in terms of their finances, and we really do, it feels, take advantage of that. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but look at the recent deal Spurs have done. I mean, even the Richarlison one to Everton. Everton needed the money at the time for us to get Richarlison. You look at all the teams we've been linked with. Maybe the Forest one less so with the release clause there. It just feels with Tottenham, every deal we do is opportunistic. Is that being unfair, Johnny? That's what it feels like. I don't think it is unfair. I mean, look. We're looking at Savinho. It's a very difficult deal. Of course it is, because I only signed him last year and there's no rush to sell him. We're looking at Morgan Rogers. Well, what is the chances of Aston Villa letting?
Why would Villa sell to Tottenham? Why would they sell to Tottenham? Why would they sell to us?
Exactly. Why would you? Why would you sell to a potential top 6 rival? Why? What's the need? They've sold Bailey. He's been forced out the club. Right, they've sold Jacob Ramsey, been forced out of the club to Newcastle. The Egyptian owner is friendly with the Saudis and, very conveniently gone to Newcastle for well over the odds, 46 million. They don't need the money now. Bailey's now going to Roma. They've got the money they need. Homegrown, they've got the multiple now to go and spend the money. They do not need to get rid of him. And why would he want to come to Spurs anyway? Why would he come? And, I'm looking at Savinho now and thinking, Savio, whatever. Is he thinking now, Do you know what? The
I'll stay where I am.
embarrassment, the SA Day.
Yeah, I'll stay where I
I
am.
don't want to go there. Why should I? Why should I go there now?
I tell you what,
You know?
a penny for Romero's thoughts. I mean, he's just signed the new contract.
I know.
What must he be thinking, Romero? He's just signed the new contract. He must have been given assurances in relation to what Tottenham are trying to do. Bill, let me come back round to you. We are hearing, as this show is ongoing at the moment, that whilst Everton are leading the race for Tyler Dibbling, Tottenham's attentions over the player are intensifying. Spurs have made calls, and Dibbling is a player that has now been mentioned internally at Tottenham and could be pushing for the player. You know, again, young player, up and coming prospect, certainly not the finished article. Obviously, recently relegated with Southampton. I just don't know what these next 10 days hold for us, Bill. I don't know.
I'm crashing out, man. Officially, I'm crashing out. I can't sit here and talk about Tyler Dibbling tonight. I can't do it.
How about opposite Dibble?
I cannot do it. The only thing I can do, I need to put all my energy into getting rid of our chairman. That's the only transfer that I can care about. I can't get invested in another transfer story. That's two that have really, like, Gibbs White, Eze, that would have been two sick transfers. Savinho, sick transfer. I've loved it, man. I can't do this again, Rick. I can't go into these transfer talks. I need to get rid of this chairman. We have to get, there's no other option anymore. We need to get Levy out, guys.
We know, as we've said, that is where the biggest problem is. And I mean, the ironic thing is, Bill, as you've said, that he's admitted in this recent overlap interview.
Yeah,
this is what he does. This is what he does. I mean, talk about playing slap front and centre of it.
Right.
He's the man that's negotiating the deals.
And we've had 2 deals that took 14 days to close and not closed. You know, meeting a release clause is the second most embarrassing thing that's happened to us this window. For anyone else, that would be the most embarrassing thing that's happened in their history. Like, what is going on with this football club?
And the fact is, supposedly had 3 face-to-face meetings with Paris this week and still couldn't get over the line. It's just
Jesus Christ,
man. Arsenal came in and took 2 hours. They got, here we go. We've been waiting for 2 weeks, man.
They probably did it over text as well.
Yeah.
60 mil habit. There you go. All right,
we need to get this chairman out. There's no way left to turn for this guy anymore. Tottenham will never succeed. They'll never be a big club. They'll never be an elite club while Daniel Levy is our chairman. He's got to go.
No, guys, it's okay. We want to win the Champions League and Premier League. It's fine.
Yeah, get your Danny Rose. We'll be Googling some guy. Carlos Kickerball signs. Who? Yeah, listen, it's embarrassing. There's no way out. There's no way out, right? Dead end.
You mean for us, or you mean we're stuck here? We're stuck here. There's no way out for us.
It's a dead end. How do you get out of this one? Tell me what rabbit you can pull out of the hat to get yourself out of this one.
A new chairman. That's it.
Yeah. We know it's not going to happen. I say it's not going to happen. I think, like I said, we have to keep putting that pressure on there, Bill, like we have in terms of supporting change for Spurs. And I assume, obviously, in the next week or so, you'll be looking carefully at the situation and monitoring.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going back to Eze transfer now, monitoring, edging, all this. I'm sure you'll be looking at
our
what
protests are advancing, guys. Don't worry about that. They're advancing in the next 24 hours.
I don't want to hear that word anymore.
I'm sick. You know what? I'm sick. Ban the words like Jules says. Ban advancing. Ban edging. Ban.
Mate,
ban these buzzwords.
You know, if you're on the fence, if you're not sure, how can you not be sure after what we've just experienced? We're humiliated in front of the entire football world again for the second time in this transfer window. We need to unite as a fan base. We need to have regular, persistent action, and we need to get rid of this chairman. If you don't want to join us, that's fine, but don't complain when you're given a football club that's humiliated in front of everyone. We need to get this chairman gone from this football club, and the only way we can do that is persistent action with the fan base uniting. And trust me, Change to Tottenham are going to be there. We're going to organise. We're going to unite. We're going to get this chairman gone.
Listen, we need the numbers there. That's for certain. We need the numbers there. Look, at the moment, as things stands, what we're hearing, that Tottenham are trying to go back in for Savinho. This is the latest news we're hearing, that Tottenham are not sort of thinking about the Brazilian winger, and City are still insisting on blocking the deal in the last 10 days. What, in any world now, can we do, guys, that makes this now a tolerable and acceptable window? Marlon, in your word, is it Polina's coming on loan, as we know.
Yep.
Go to Sakai is here, allegedly, although he's injured at the moment. Obviously, Kudus through the door. But it's not enough, is it? It's not enough for Thomas Frank. I mean, that's what we haven't really even touched upon yet. How is Thomas Frank feeling? Because I think
should've stayed at Brentford. That's what he's probably thinking.
I tell you what, he's probably, you know what? It's in a way what's going to Brentford right now. Maybe Tottenham is a bit better than what's going to Brentford right now because they are obviously falling through the floor at the moment with regards to even their own transfer window, what they're going through. But Thomas Frank, in terms of being supported, Marlon, you know, he can have all the systems in the world, he can have all the formations in the world. He needs the players to make it work. So, penny through his thoughts right now, Marlon. What is going through Thomas Frank's head when he's seeing not one but two deals that were at advanced stages fall through in the manner they've fallen through, Marlon?
He's got to think of a way to protect Kudus in all of this because, as you can see, with everything we've done in the last, especially the last 2 or 3 games, even through pre-season, everything goes through one man. Teams are going to catch on to this. So somehow, some way, Odebert, Tell, Johnson, and the rest of the gang have somehow got to use them and utilize them as best as he can because teams are going to put 2 on Kudus and we're done. We're screwed because we can't create nothing without him. We clearly saw that on Saturday, and this is like, again, we sit there and say it's Burnley, but again, all our play came from one man. So all it's going to take, everyone's going to see that now, especially, and go, okay, as long as we can cut the set pieces out and Kudus, Spurs are finished. So for him, I don't know what, it depends on what he kind of wants and how he sees Spurs going forward. Because the options right now, look, there are options, but they're just not good enough options. And we've got to play Champions League football. Could you imagine?
Yeah, we've not even spoken about that element to it. We've got Champions League football coming.
And we've got to play 2 big clubs in it. That's guaranteed. So we could end up, and if we get a slapping like we did against Bayern Munich, not the friendly, the Champions League game one, when we were under Poch, where we said he had a terrible window and we needed players in then, that's exactly what's going to happen again if we're not careful. And we'll just get slapped up at home in front of everybody and we'll be sitting there scratching our heads going, where do we go from here? Oh, yeah, it's because Levy fucked the summer transfer window with the 2 signings that he didn't bring in. But I think for now, it's a case of, I wouldn't even be surprised if we don't even sign anybody. I would not. I'm now at that point where I think this is it.
Come on, it's happened so many times before.
It's happened so many times before, and it wouldn't surprise me. And we'll get to the point where we're having to use Solomon and Hill as well, just because they're there, their bodies. That I'm like,
mate, if Solomon plays for this team in the league this season, we're cooked.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we'll loan in Nkunku somehow, and then use Solomon on the left.
Yeah,
that's what
hey, Brian will be back.
I see Brian here. We're getting the Spurs shirt.
You're forgetting someone, guys. He's obviously going to say, "Oh, what's happened is Thomas Frank has had an epiphany, and he thinks he can turn Mala Solomon into Savinho."
Yeah.
We still haven't had the tweet of the club and Frank was so impressed by Sarr's role in the number 10 that we don't.
Yeah. Archie Gray left wing. Archie Gray is going to be on the left wing.
Yeah.
Been impressed in training with Archie Gray on the left.
Yeah, Archie Gray has been.
It's the only position he hasn't played so far. So
Serious question though, George. I said about Thomas Frank and what is going through his mind with the options that he's got right now in these next 10 days. We have to be honest and say this: that we any football club that do their due diligence, they won't have just had Gibbs White and Eze on a list. They would have had a lot more players. Now we spoke about the other options out there, and you said the likes of Akaluche, Nico Paz being again a player of Tottenham's interest. It's again that point, like Johnny said earlier, how big a drop off is that to what we need and what Frank needs for his system? Are we gonna have to make some? Are we gonna have to take some gambles now in these next 10 days?
I don't think we have an option, we have to take a gamble because I just don't. Frank prioritizes, and you can see that from the signing so far. Dual winners, and people with physicality is what he wants, regardless of what position you're playing in. Because we can see that with the Kudus signing as well. He's a tricky winger, but he's also one of the strongest players in the league, which is also quite surprising. And right now, when you're thinking of maybe like top level 10s or wingers that sort of have that ability to win duels, God, they're too far and few in between. So I don't know really at the top level who we could go for unless it is like a Paqueta, who I think would genuinely fit the mold really well.
How
Just,
are they
I
going to be
just
though,
don't see
G?
a
I
world
mean,
in West Ham aren't going to let that happen.
West Ham are not going to let. Bear
Exactly.
in mind, their start to the season losing 3-0 away at Sunderland, losing Kudus, and then I agree with you. Paqueta will be an amazing. I think it'd be a great signing, but there's no way in the world West Ham are going to sell into us, are they?
No, and what will happen is, and someone put in the chat as well, actually, that we'll probably end up putting a late bid in for Damsgaard to try and get one of his mates back in, and then that's going to flop because Brentford aren't going to sell him. So, it's just worrying because as much as that, and they will have a list. They will have a list of players. It just worries me who's on that list and who's actually attainable.
So Akliouche, if we signed Akliouche and Eze, that'd be an incredible signing. I feel if we signed him now, it would just the fan base wouldn't take to it because it's not a big enough name, sadly, which is unfortunate because he's a very good player. But
Bill, the thing is, if he comes in and impresses, why does that matter? Is it just the
it shouldn't. You're right.
It's just the optics you feel is the problem.
Yeah.
The optics.
Yeah.
The short-term sort of view on it would be quite. And the thing is, as well, like the same with like the Dibbling. If it is a young player that ends up coming in through no fault of their own, they're going to get not necessarily targeted, but because of our frustrations as fans, that puts so much pressure on that younger signing coming in to then perform well, because we've been told that this next signing is going to be the one that's like he's effectively got to be the big signing that's going to take us and improve our forward line. And if that doesn't happen, then I worry that stunts that development of that player, and it just inadvertently hurts them as well. So it's a tough one.
What do you think, Johnny? You know, you're a big Thomas Frank fan. You know, we can see what Thomas is trying to do at Tottenham in terms of his ability to switch from a 3 to a 5 to a back 4. You know, he's got all the technical playbooks in the world, but if he's not going to be supported, similar to every other manager at Tottenham, it's inevitably going to fail. You know, obviously, look, we had an amazing moment we shouldn't forget 3.5 months ago in Bilbao, but we wanted that to be the building block. We wanted that to be the stepping stone, that to be the foundation where the club have gone and won a trophy, and to use that moment there as the yardstick for what's to come, and to want more of that. Just how much does this put Thomas Frank under a degree of pressure in terms of even the squad now? Look at the situation, the fact they've tried to offload Richie in the last few hours, how much that destabilises the group. How much harder does this make Frank's job now with the current group and also who comes in to give him the best possible chance at success at Tottenham?
Well, listen, first of all, Johan Lang, not fit for purpose, right? I don't want to hear any more stories about, got to give Johan a chance. I don't want to hear it anymore, right? He's had the whole window, okay? Nothing, right? He's not fit for purpose. This is a guy that was demoted by Aston Villa. I don't want to hear the story. Oh, yeah, but he wasn't really demoted. He was demoted, right? And he's proved why, okay? We've seen why. We need to get the Dom back firing, doing what he does best, because this guy he just can't make it happen. I feel sorry for Thomas Frank. Just another manager thrown under the bus, really, and not supported. Listen, look, I think Ange Postecoglou had way better support in his first season. When you look, he got James Maddison, he got Vicario, he got Mickey van der Ven. You know, I think he got much better support than what Thomas Frank has got. I think the only thing that will save Thomas Frank is his tactical nous, and, you know, how to try and navigate not to lose. You know, may go more defensive, maybe have to go more defensive, may have to rethink his whole tactical setup now with what's going on. I think it's going to be difficult, and I can't see anybody out there right now that is going to elevate the fan base from Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi Eze. And as we said last night, I don't think ever I can remember one player that united the whole fan base in excitement that he was coming. Genuinely, you know, everyone you speak to, oh my God, when we got Eze in there, like all the conversations.
One thing, John, on that, do you think the fact is, though, if Arsenal's his first choice and he doesn't want to be here, and we are all Tottenham fans, we love the football club. I know that we're all angry, frustrated, gutted right now, but do you think when we've allowed us to set in 24, 48 hours, because we're coming to this fresh off the back of the news, will we think to ourselves, but we want a player that wants to be... I'm not saying Eze, if he came, wouldn't want to be here, but we've known all along, let's be very, very clear, it's been transparent throughout the whole window. Arsenal has been Eze's first choice. Let's be real about that. We can't get away from that. Do you think we will look at this in, I don't know, 10 days, 11 days time, reflect back, and I'm not saying we're going to be joyous about, I'm not saying we're going to get over it quickly, but you get my point that if Arsenal was his first choice, we want players to be because they want to play for Tottenham. Are you with me?
I don't listen. I'm sorry. I don't subscribe to the fact that Eberechi Eze has lied all the way through. You know, he's a solid Christian guy, decent guy, right? I'm sorry,
not questioning. Listen, I'm not. Just to be clear, I'm not questioning. Yeah.
No, what I'm trying to say here is I don't believe, right? So you to say, right, that Spurs didn't have a clue for 10 days that he might have wanted Arsenal. And if you had an inkling, what, you've only just found out 10 days into the transfer, 10 days into the negotiations, that he might not want to go and he prefers Arsenal. You should have established that from day one and moved on. Say, okay, we don't want him. Don't know if he's going to go to Arsenal. He obviously doesn't want us, right? I'm going somewhere else. We're going to go move on somewhere else. I think fans might have respected the fact that, look, we've made an effort. The guy doesn't want to come here. He only wants Arsenal. Fair enough. But you've allowed it to go on for 10 days. You've allowed the fan base to get excited. You've allowed us to get carried away with the notion, and even the press fueled all that by telling us the deal's done. We saw it. The deal's done. Here we go. Terms agreed. All right? We've taken us all the way to the front door and then slammed the door in our face. I don't want to hear the excuses anymore. I'm done with the excuses. I'm done with the stories and the tales of woe. The fact of the matter is, we should have done the deal. And if we didn't do the deal, we knew that he was going to go to Arsenal. We had a sniff he's gone to Arsenal. We should have moved on days ago. And more time wasted. And when you get down to the bare facts, we've signed Paulinho on loan and Kudus. That's it.
It's hard to argue that. I mean, Marlon, I have honestly on this show been lost for words. I am honestly, I think for many out there, this has been at points such a draining transfer window. And it feels now we've got another 10, 11 days to endure with it. That's the way it feels at the moment. Is there any way we come out of this window feeling for Thomas Frank, he has got a squad that, don't laugh when I say this, can fight on all four fronts?
It's just so weird you asked that, because I answered this question yesterday. Someone asked me this and I went, if he got Xavi and Eze in, he's got to compete on all four fronts because they are the thing. But now he's, and this is where I look back at what Johnny kind of just said, he might have to go defensive. We've got Conte in World Cup year. That's exactly what's going to happen. And people now realize what Conte was going through because Frank's going to be in the same boat where he didn't get the players he wanted in the summer. He didn't like the squad that he had, just didn't have enough attacking force, and it had to rely on Harry Kane. And we had to protect the defense because they weren't good enough. So we're going to be in the same boat where we've now got so many defenders, which we have, midfielders, defensive type midfielders that are not strong going forward. So we're going to be probably in games where, again, I'm going to say, we're going to be relying on one player because the other players I don't know if they can step up. They haven't shown they can. Odobert, for some reason, he was meant to be the next big thing, and Frank hasn't had complete trust in him in this pre-season. And when it got to the final, he went with Tell. Brennan Johnson got a hit on Saturday, but Brennan Johnson we all find frustrating. So he's somehow got to make it work. But when we get knocked out of a cup competition because he needs to prioritize, which is obvious from what he's going to have to prioritize the league, Champions League next, and the other two trophies are nothing. I think Daniel Levy has set that precedent out now by saying when he, we have to compete on all four fronts, but then doesn't really give him the players to do it or the squad. Like, because half of these players, no matter what we want to say, finished 17th last year. they finished 17th, and you're expecting them to go into a season and compete again. It's just laughable. But look, we'll all be there. We'll all be there to see it happen. That's the one thing that you can say about this. Every single one of us will be there, no matter how disappointed we are.
That guy in the 10.
Yeah. But
can't get him on the pitch at the moment, and I play him in a 10.
But it's just the whole thing is just, it's typical Tottenham. I think for me, because I'm used to Levy doing this, it's not as hit me as hard. I think everyone who started to believe it's hit more hard than on them than it has someone like me.
I think what we've heard the last few months, and I'll come to Bill on this point and go, Jules, you know, there's been a lot of talk about there being a cash injection coming into the club, there being more funds that are going to be made available to spend on the first team. But to date, on this point, Bill, you know, in nearly 3 months, we've only signed one true first team player in Mohamed Kudus. That is the reality. Polina is here on loan. Look, he might do very well and earn himself a permanent deal. But when you boil down the facts, nearly 3 months, we've only signed one true first team player on a permanent basis, Bill.
It's a complete disgrace, mate. And that's why, you know, I stood there last week protesting in front of our stadium because at this point in the window, that was, a couple of days after a Super Cup final. Our squad is not prepared. It wasn't prepared for the first game of the season in Burnley. I know we won that game comfortably, but the squad was still not prepared to compete on all fronts. It was not prepared for a final. A game that we did really well in. And I think the fact that we've played so well in the first 2 games is even more reason why we should have had better players. Thomas Frank's shown in 2 games that he's a very capable manager. The way that he's acclimated himself to our football club has been nothing short of outstanding. He's managed to convince Romero to stay. He's managed to convince Romero to sign on. This guy deserves a world-class squad, and we're not giving it to him again. He joins a long list of 15, 16, 17 managers that have not been backed again. And it's a disgrace. It's an absolute, whichever way you look at it, it's a disgrace. It's another disappointing, poor transfer window. And I always point, and the same reason that I protested last week, change for Tottenham. These owners have shown us who they are. They've been here for 25 years. They're not changing. They don't change. There is 25 years of evidence, 25 years of transfer windows. How many transfer windows under this ownership can you say, fair play, he was completely backed? I can't think of any, really. In 25 years.
What one window we've come out of and felt the manager's got the tools to do the job.
25 years is an incredible amount of time, and they've shown who they are in that 25 years. And if you don't see it anymore, and I don't know what else they can do to prove who they are, because I think it's pretty obvious at this point.
I'm right in saying, Bill, I presume there's work underway, right? I know you've had a huge amount of feedback tonight from fans, right?
Of course, mate. Yeah, we are taking everything in at the moment, and keep an eye on the next couple of days. We've already got plans underway. Let's just say, I think we've got a lot of momentum. I would call on anyone, fan base worldwide, we have to come together and prove that this is not good enough anymore. We have to protest because, we're humiliated at the moment. It's another transfer. And even if you take away the fact that he's just gone to Arsenal, you take away the Eze drama, the fact is we've signed 2 first-team players, one on loan, one a fantastic player in Kudus, and it's not good enough. So even if you take away the fact that how humiliated we've been, we're in another disappointing transfer window when we were promised so much more in an interview. We've just won the Europa League. We're in the Champions League, and we're acting the same way that we've always acted. And as Einstein said, the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So they've done nothing so far to show me that they deserve different results so far.
And that is the most mental thing. How can Spurs win a European trophy and still be losers?
Yeah,
in every aspect. Like, I don't understand how we've done this. How have we
finished
ruined
17th in the Champions League? We miracled the Champions League, and they're wasting it again.
Yep.
I mean, Man United. We beat Man United, and Man United have bought Mbuemo, Cunha, Sesko. I mean,
and they look to be signing Belieber as well.
Yeah,
and those were in the first week.
Yeah, and they were struggling. I mean, he sacked tea ladies, sacked 450 staff members, and they're just signing players. Nottingham Forest signing players. Even Everton are signing players. Sunderland have spent over £120 million. They've signing players. They signed Granit Xhaka, who's bonded the whole team together. Leeds have showing intent. Everyone's showing intent. Apart from us and Fulham.
The also optic around this whole thing around a cash injection, that if we have this so-called cash injection, we've maybe clearly set it to the wrong place, because if we're haggling over bonus fees, add-ons, and this kind of nature, you do really question how we've allowed.
And I'll tell you what, which I think is a big factor in all of this, right? Daniel Levy's been chairman for 25 years. In that time, he's pissed off at one time or another pretty much every single football club in the Premier League. His relationships with football clubs are so damaged and have so much baggage and historical baggage. It just needs someone new. It needs someone new doing these deals. And Marlon said at the beginning, he went out and outed himself on Gary Neville on the overlap to say he's the one that does the crunch time last-minute deals. I bet you can't name a single chairman in the Premier League that likes working or dealing with Daniel Levy. And Arsenal showed, come in straight away, get it done in 2 hours. We need someone else at the helm of our football club. It's 25 years. It's too long. It has to change.
We're just on that point there. Friend of the show, Marcus Buckland, who was on the show with me and Johnny at the weekend, says he was told by a reliable source that Steve Parish was heard bemoaning the antics of Levy at Stamford Bridge on Sunday regarding the Eze negotiations. I mean, it's just a long line of what we've heard about how difficult Daniel is to deal with.
It's like we don't deal with Chelsea, we don't deal with this club, we don't deal with this club. It's like, come on. What's the common denominator in all this?
But it's a problem, John, isn't it? It's what makes it harder to get deals over the line when the reputation of a chairman is what it is with Daniel at times when it goes into the negotiation world. It makes it very difficult. And it feels like with Tottenham, as I said earlier, with Dharmesh, that every negotiation we go into feels it has got to be like a war to win it, or a war to save, whether it's a few million on the add-ons or the bonus fees or the structure or the payment terms. But for a club that has got ambition to want to be a big club, to want to win trophies, to replicate what we saw 3.5 months ago, this has to change, Johnny, doesn't it? This has to change. It has to change.
I don't know how it's going to change when, we've lost out on Morgan Gibbs-White, too difficult. We lost out on Eze, too difficult. We're trying to do Savinho, too difficult. We're making a play for Morgan Rogers, impossible. And who are they kidding? Who are they kidding? Let's go for it. Let's be realistic. You had a chance to do a realistic deal and you didn't do it. We had a chance to sign Grealish for realistic money, at a realistic price, at a realistic time. And we messed that one up. It's going back,
Can I just on that point, Johnny? On this list that we've got here, we put out on our X feed a lot of the failed transfers, depending on what stage you want to believe they're at. I can, from Dybala to Suarez to Diaz to Fernandes to Moutinho to Villa at the time, to Morientes, to Willian to Hulk, to Damiel to Alves, to Hazard to Mane, to Eto'o to Grealish, to Gibbs-White to Eze.
At least he didn't. Listen, the only saving grace is that he didn't do a William and leg it out the window, right, while he was in the office about to sign. That's about all I can say. Or the facts didn't go missing, or we didn't find out a certain piece of information.
It goes back to that point. It's a humiliation to the fans. I mean, that I would like to think now there seems to be a different PR around Tottenham, and we have to say, I will just say that has improved since Vinay has come through the door.
100%.
And from Vinay to come from Arsenal to Tottenham, he will not be stupid. He will understand. You'd think, or partly would understand just the level of humiliation this is going to be for our fan base when they announce him. That is going to be tough, and it's about really now. I know Marlon's seen 25 years and can't be bothered anymore, but it's now going to be about how we react. And even by your complexion, George, this is going to be difficult, isn't it? These next 10 days, everyone knows we've got money to spend. The window's coming to a close. The negotiations are going to be harder. The prices are going up. To try and get players is going to be harder because, again, similar to Palace, for Palace to obviously let Eze go, they wanted time for a replacement. And we're going to be in this exact same boat now that anyone we go for, George, of a higher profile nature, those clubs are going to want the time to bring in those replacements. And it does mean, again, the negotiations, the fees, these aren't going to be done in 24 hours. They're just not, George, are they?
No, and you're exactly right there, actually, about them wanting to get replacements in time. And that's the biggest factor for me, even knowing that we aren't going to get someone big on the line. I think that the Savinho is probably the closest one that could be done, just purely of the fact that City already do have an insane amount of attacking talent. But as been pointed out,
They don't want to sell him though.
they don't want to sell him. So, but that's what I mean. That's the closest, and they don't want to sell him. That's how mad it is at the moment.
So
Rodgers isn't going to happen. Even if we did somehow spunk up 100 mil, who are they going to sign with like 10 days to go over the window?
Villa would have to have, Jules, just to let you come back here. Villa would have to have real dire, even still financial problems. They'd have to. They would have to be really, really badly still affected by PSR. And you've got to remember that they only told Jacob Ramsey a week or so ago, and that was for a big fee. So to have to sell Morgan Rodgers too, Villa would have to be in absolute dire straits.
No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't see how any sort of quote unquote big move could possibly happen this late in the window now, especially since we threw all our eggs in one basket with Gibbs White. Now we've thrown all our eggs in the Eze basket, and look how long it took us to try and get those deals sorted out. And I just don't see a world where we sign someone that's of a really high level. I think Marlon's right. It's probably going to come down to whether it's a loan for someone or like a dibbling on deadline day because there's no other options.
Oh my good God.
And I think we're just going to be left completely short again because of how late we've left this now. So it's hard not to feel crap about the whole situation, because this should have been, well, I say the turning point. We say it every year. This should have been the point where we've won the Europa League. We can try and kick on a little bit. I wasn't expecting them to do everything in one window, because this is Spurs. We don't do everything in one window. But the fact that we are so far short from having a competent squad when we've lost Maddison for a long-term injury. Kulusevski could still be out until December. Who knows? No one knows his return.
We don't know the prognosis on Kulusevski. You're right. We don't know.
We've lost Sonny, who, albeit didn't have a great season last year, still ended up being one of our top scorers and assisters compared to the rest of the team. The only one left that I think got more than 10 is Johnson. The rest of them are all out or gone. So the team is in complete dire straits at the moment, and it's really hard not to feel like we've just Thomas Frank in particular has just been left out to dry and been told, listen, you're good with youngsters. You've done it before at other teams. Make Tell and Odebear and who else? Superstars.
I tell you, I honestly, when you just think you've seen it all and then you see this, you just think to yourself, like, this club, it is some form of social experiment. How can you get so invested again to be so let down? Okay, I want to ask you guys this. What do we think is going to be the result in these next? What do you actually think we are going to do in these next 10 days? Give me a name or give me a number of what you feel is going to be done, because this is big now for Frank. We've got Champions League football coming around the corner very, very soon. That is coming, very soon. We're going to have our draw to understand who we're going to be facing. But at the moment, to try and we've got, obviously, people are going to be listening to this back on the playback in the morning. We would have had a night's sleep after this. To try and pick ourselves back up and go again, which I know, again, we're football fans, right? We're so invested and we love and adore this football club. I'm talking to people in here that spend tens of thousands of pounds watching this club home away all around the world. Bill, we know you want change, and I think we all have supported in different parts that change for Spurs. Again, we'll continue to support them on here and give you as much coverage as we possibly can, and hope fans will improve and follow that. Is there anything in these next 10 days you can look at, or even tell me, that you think will make Thomas Frank believe he's got the tools to make Spurs competitive?
You would hope that he would be in constant conversation with a recruitment team, have a list of targets for each position, and go out and get them quickly. I don't think there's any evidence of the way that we react to this window that is in fact the reality. If we'd have moved on from Morgan Gibbs White to Eze in the next couple of days, and then moved on to Eze, not signed Eze, moved on to another target, maybe you could believe that. But it seems like we're sort of guessing all the time, and we're sort of scrambling from target to target with no real plan. So I would be really, really worried that we have a plan that is able to formulate in 11 days. Instead, what I'm sure will happen is they'll probably throw a couple of big names in the next 11 days to try and appease the fan base. You might get some transfer links to Rodgers. You might get someone like Rodrigo or Leao named to just try and shut up the fans.
But these aren't doable, though, Bill. You
know
yourself.
Doable. Of course they're not.
No.
And then on deadline day, we'll be scrambling around from club to club, and we'll probably end up with a couple of underwhelming signings. Maybe someone on loan that we probably aren't going to keep in 6 months, something like that. I think it's been a really disappointing window, and I think the opportunity was there right in front of our eyes. If we'd assigned Eze and Savinho, our club would have gone to the next level. Fan base would be happy. It's just a real shame that we haven't managed to get it over the line again. But I'm sure in the next 10, 11 days, you'll see a lot of scrambling. You won't see a lot of competence, that's for sure.
Irrecoverable, Bill? Irrecoverable?
It's not irrecoverable. No, it's never irrecoverable. There are plenty of players that all fans want is to be a fan of an ambitious football club. But I do not have any inkling or any suggestion or any belief that this football club can go acting out in an ambitious way. You can go out and put £100 million for Rodgers. You can go out and wear someone like Leao Rodrigo, someone like that. Obviously they're all unrealistic players, but ambition, is clear to see. And our football club does. Look at, and I hate to say it, probably with 10,000 watching right now. Look at an ambitious football club like Arsenal Football Club. Havertz gets injured a couple of days before a big game in the season. Yeah. The same day they go and sign Eze. That is ambition. That is plan. That is everything that we want to see at our football club. It would never happen at Tottenham. So no, I don't think it is recoverable with our chairman.
I was going to say the only two players I can see when you're looking for balance is Savinho and Al-Kanouche sitting in there playing in the 10 role. That's the only two players that look, we spoke about balance. Last night we were talking about Eze, we all thought it was done. If we don't get Savinho, who could we get? Who would we go for? Who would be the player? And I think we all decided our boy from Atalanta would be the one. He looked like he was going to Inter Milan. Been asked to go to Arsenal, but I don't know. I think there's only 2 or 3 players that I think could even hold a candle and appease the fans somewhat, but not to the extent of what Eberechi Eze is. I feel deflated.
It's a show.
Humiliated, deflated.
What upset me is what Bill said, which is so true, that Arsenal, everything that we wanted Tottenham to be in that moment of way, they've lost, like Bill said there, what he said, lost out on they get a player, a player's gone down injured. They've not even. The irony, Bill, of it is that they've not even reported what the true extent of the injury is, right? Bearing in mind, we've been known for how bad Maddison's injury has been. Arsenal have not even reported the severity of the injury. Not only have they gone back in for a player, they've gone and got it done, and it's pretty much all sealed. And yet here we are with Maddison. How many weeks has it been since Maddison got injured? And we're still looking for number 10?
After signing Gyökeres and Zubimendi as well. Come on, it's chalk and cheese. 2 football clubs couldn't be further apart in ambition.
Proper signings. Zubimendi, proper signing. I mean, Gyökeres, we know at the moment. Even Mascara they bought in at left back is a really good talent. It's embarrassing. It's really, really, really embarrassing. And I just, Tyler Dibbling. Okay, he's a talented kid. But he's not ready for now.
It's not what we need for now. It's
now.
We've got no disrespect to go from Eze to Tyler Dibbling. It's like you're laughing at us. I mean, it's
Chelsea
just like
got Colwell injured. The manager comes out the next game and says, "I need to sign a centre back, otherwise I'll be disappointed." We don't have.
They've signed Simmons and still want Garnacho, still want Simmons.
This is no disrespect to Frank. We're hearing him say a few weeks ago that Ben Davies is a very important player for the squad and the team. And I don't mean that's no disrespect to Ben, because Ben's a top bloke. Like, it's not a disrespect to Ben, but it's the fact that we've got someone here over 10 years that we're still seen as a very important player. I don't know any club in the top 6, Jules, that operates like this. And again, that is no disrespect to Ben Davies. He's a top bloke. It's no disrespect to Ben. But
no definitely not.
Operates like this.
No, there's no disrespect to him. It's just we don't know when to move players on, and that's also been an issue with selling players, which then puts us in a sticky situation of then not having the room in the squad to make certain signings, and that's a whole other thing. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like I hate that I fall into the trap every time.
Believing again,
thinking that
we all
get something done.
We're in a toxic relationship with an abusive. We're an abusive.
Yeah.
Not Marlon. Ed, would you take Lookman though? Joking aside, he keeps scoring the goals.
I like Lookman a lot, but I think the only thing that worries me is the fact that he's apparently been handed out by his agents to everyone, and no one's even had a sniff so far. That's the only thing that concerns me a little bit. I'd love to look at Illiman and Die, to be honest with you, at Everton. I think that's another player.
Yeah, Lookman worries me because of Premier League though, because he's been better when he's been in the Bundesliga and Serie A. When he's had his free, I know, but everyone says this, but he's had 3 stints in the Premier League, and it's kind of like I feel like he's with Sancho. They're better off playing abroad instead of coming back to the Premier League where they're going to be stuck with their mates, stuck in London. They're kind of better off when they're out of the country.
Sometimes it's not linear though, right? And it's such an extreme example, but Salah was a complete flop at Chelsea. Yeah. Went to go to Italy, came back and has become one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, but Salah, you put it in my
you've put it in my head now, man. We need to go and get Charlie Kane on the blower.
Holland, free.
I understand. That's the only one we can do it.
But at this present moment, I'll take him because I'm desperate. I'm not.
Well, that's the thing. There's no other options. So
there's no other options. But for me, when it comes to Lookman, I think he's a very good player, very, very good player. But his best form has been when it's been outside England.
I think he's a victim of what went on before when he was younger.
Because Gasperini got the best out of him.
Yeah, I mean,
he came 14th Ballon d'Or last year.
Yeah, look, listen, be honest, right? 3 seasons on the trot, he's scoring goals, right? He can play left wing, right wing. And
but it was for Gasperini. Like, I would like to see how he would have done with Gasperini now gone in the Atalanta team. It's just we're not going to see it. So
I would even rather try for De Ketelaere instead.
Yeah, look, Johnny, I'm not saying he's a terrible player.
I'm just thinking,
but in my head, I just don't want him. I think for someone like him, he doesn't need to be back in London where he's got distractions. And
I'm not worried about that. We lock him up. We'll do a marinade.
Because look at Sancho. Sancho's best form was when he went back to Borussia Dortmund.
We thought. I said to you guys, we got to lock Eze. Well, I say to you guys, we got to lock Eze in a room somewhere.
Look, this has got Pavlyuchenko and Fraser Campbell vibes all over it.
No, I'll tell you what.
Now, right? If Marinakis was our chairman, we'd have Eze playing for us.
Look, we can
pick up our chairman. Eze would be a Tottenham player.
We can pick up Lookman for around about 40 million euros, right? And I think he's a guy that scored good goals in the last 3 seasons. I still think about the hat trick he scored in the Europa League final.
Great final.
And I think he offers more than what we've got now on the left-hand side.
I agree with that. Yeah,
£40 million, right? If he's not a dickhead, which is Thomas Frank's policy, then okay, I bring him in right now.
Does that still count for Daniel Levy in that rule? Is that just
no? He's the exception to his own rule.
Give it Paratici, give him the keys, go and get Rafael out.
I shouldn't laugh at the irony of that. This. If anything sums up Tottenham, this sums up Tottenham, right? The irony of this: Fabio Paratici was assisting Crystal Palace in their search for a number 10. And after all this, guess what? He's back to assisting us with a bloody search for number 10. Could you not get anything more Tottenham than that?
No. Johan Lang was apparently on holiday as well, wasn't he, back in home? So this guy moves in silence, but so does my nan. She's been dead for 10 years. So.
Stay there. I'm setting up a Just Giving page for Johan Lang. Keep him on holiday. Don't allow him back into the building. I don't care if he's friends with Thomas the Frank Engine, right? You're useless. Useless.
Yeah, but he's only... But to be fair to Lang, he's got a chairman that has to negotiate the deals for him. Lang could be giving him names that we never hear of. But when it comes to the negotiation at the end with the chairman,
Daniel Levy's doing them.
Daniel Levy's the one who's doing them. He's come out and said this.
Yeah, but Marlon, come on, mate. Right? Yeah, I understand it, but I listen. My wife could unearth Morgan Gibbs White and Eberechi Eze, right? She knows bugger all, right? Okay, so you don't need to be. You don't need to be in
but did he not? Wasn't he part of the duet and the people that we haven't got? And again, it's been messed up by Daniel Levy with the negotiations.
There's Desiree Doué, right? I mean, come on. Do you want to come to Spurs or PSG? Oh, let me think about it for a minute. Come on.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. He's given the names, but the problem is that when you get to a point where your chairman is actually doing a negotiation and you've got other clubs coming in, we're stuck around this pool. And I think Lange, look, I'm not saying Lange is great. I'm not saying but I think Levy's a bigger problem than anything else. Vinay's come here. He's meant to be this PR merchant. He's now sent Daniel Levy out there doing left, right, and centre. But look, we're today and we're all embarrassed. What great PR is that for the club?
But do you think on that point though, Bill, for someone that, again, has been very vocal, and again, we changed for Spurs, the message there wants to be a change at the top of the club in terms of Daniel Levy's position. Is this window in a way almost becoming for you? And look, I know Tottenham is first in your heart and the success of this club means more to you than anything, can I just say? Because I know it does, but is it almost painting the perfect picture as to what the big problem is here? Vinay Venkatesham has been here less than 6 months? And in these 6 months, he's seen Daniel Levy take control of 2 deals that you would arguably say would have transformed or given this squad a different complexion in Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi Eze, and neither of them have got over the line, Billy. And he's the one who's openly admitting this overlap interview. He does the negotiations when it comes to that point of course, him being the one fronting this.
Yeah, but my worry with that, mate, is who is holding him to account? There's no one to do it. Like Vinay obviously answers to him. He could sack Vinay like that straight away. Someone else is gone. He's pretty much got the keys at ENIC, the keys at Tottenham. The board, they've been the same board for years. I know there's been a slight shift in movement, but I don't trust any of those board members to hold this guy to an account. This guy's essentially a dictator at Tottenham. There's no one really that can. Who's going to be able to get rid of Levy right now? There's no one, sadly. Joe Lewis, the whole situation there, which I know Johnny will know a lot more about me, but there's no one really there that could ever get rid of Levy. This guy's got too much power, and it's a difficult situation. My only hope is that it gets to a point where it becomes so embarrassing that he resigns, because I don't know, Johnny. Is there anyone that can even sack Daniel Levy at this point? I don't think there is, right? There's
look, Charrington has obviously come in, as I mentioned before, the former head of Citibank, Joe Lewis's private banker. He's been there, brought Vinay in there, 2 financial heavyweights to attract inward investment, right? Whether or not they're advising Joe Lewis, I don't know how senile or compass mentis Joe Lewis is, to be truthful with you, but one would think that when you have embarrassing situations like this, then maybe they're thinking, well, things aren't going well.
And what's the deal with the Lewis family trust? Can Vivian Lewis, she got any power over Daniel Levy?
Well, the shares are now all in a trust in the Bahamas, aren't they? So
great.
I don't. Look, I do think Charrington has been brought in to oversee inward investment, to give credibility to the board, along with Vinay. I mean, Vinay, when he left Arsenal, was offered private equity jobs in both Saudi Arabia and the US of A. And
he chose this.
Well, he chose this because he obviously heard the project. But I still believe that there is money and inward investment incoming. But if you are a Saudi or Qatari or whoever you are coming in with the money, you probably be looking on now saying, it's a bit of embarrassment, actually. The 2 biggest stories of the transfer window are us.
Yep.
Really? Aren't they? The 2 embarrassing stories of the transfer window.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to supersede this.
But it also goes to that point as well. Vinay so far has been, praising Daniel in that recent interview.
Over a glass of wine, though. That was after a few glasses of wine.
I don't trust this guy anyway. He's on the inside, man. That's the reason why Arsenal hijacked so quickly. That's what I'm saying. Vinay. How do they know the terms of the deal so quick, man? That's what I'm saying.
Guys,
inside job. Inside job.
I'm just looking at
the greatest thing about football is there's always another day. And I know, for all of us, that for those that are listening back on the audio, they might not want to face today, because today might be the day where they're going to get that announcement. But we are going to have to somehow refresh ourselves and come back again. Look, we are fans, and there's millions of Tottenham fans in the world that listen and watch this podcast. They have seen this team, or should I say this football club, lose finals. They've seen us go through some difficult times. We will come again. We will come again, but it's the nature of that. What you're operating and working with. That makes it very, very hard to believe at the moment that there is a way forward. But again, there's a game on Saturday. And I do feel with the transfer window, and I want to close on this point, Jules, do you just also feel sometimes that the window itself does really, in a way, it does take over our emotions and our feelings, and it does, I think, change our mood over certain games and results. And that's why I've always been in favour of the window ending before the season starts, because of the damage it can do when it does come into play during the season. Now we're in a situation where, if we're led to believe it, we heard from Dharmesh at the start of the show that Richarlison was trying to be offered as part of a move to try and get Eze over the line. That has fallen through. We've then got to deal with that fallout alone about how Richarlison now feels that Tottenham were trying to move him on actively after scoring a brace at the weekend. We're then now trying to deal with the next 10 days of the window and how that affects the squad in the midst of preparation for Man City to come at the weekend, a massive game for the football club. It feels at the moment, George, there's so many moving parts that even when you take the transfer window out of it, there's games still to play here, right? There's a lot in the next 10 days, and the window does dictate that mood. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the issue is it's a lose-lose situation for us now, especially because when you've got games going on at the same time, there's always that big, like, oh, what if we had this player in for this game, if so-and-so went a certain way. Same with the Super Cup as well. I think there's definitely a big what if about that, of if we brought some of these players in earlier, could we have potentially seen out that match and won that game? And I think when you look at Saturday for City, I think whatever way that happens, there's kind of when it comes to transfers, a bit of a lose-lose situation, because you either get beaten by City and then you're thinking, well, this is the incompetence of the club for not having the squad ready, or vice versa. Say we do manage to get a win, like we tend to do up there for some reason, somehow. It can, just like statistics, it can easily get spun into, oh, well, you see, we don't need to make any signings because the squad's good. Look, we just beat City. So I don't know. I think, like you say, it does take over our lives, doesn't it? I think it's hard not to in this sort of social media world. I think it did beforehand anyway, just reading papers and website stuff. But I just think for me, it's just a lot of like, what if about certain moves and where this squad could be, especially after winning a Europa League. So it's just hard, really, really hard not to feel deflated. And then I feel like that mood's going to come across from the fans in the game as well on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to have to say, like I say, recover and come again and see what is remaining of this transfer window. Johnny, thank you, mate. We obviously weren't expecting to be doing this kind of show. That's for sure. When I spoke to Bill earlier as well.
You know what? I've decided Bill's going to take sabbatical. I'm going to take up stamp collecting. I think it's what I need now. I've got some old stamps in a cupboard. I think I'll start sticking them into an album. It'd be good for me. Listen, Harvey Elliott, guys, out of 10, what's the chance of Harvey Elliott being the new guy? What would you say?
I think that's the one that's most likely to happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like we've got this thing about needing an English player.
Yeah. 8 out of 10 then, would you say?
Can I give any player 8 out of 10?
After what has happened in these last...
Approaching, nearing...
those words, we've just got to mute them in this window to hear advancing, edging.
No, the most recent one from Fabrizio is brilliant. The not stop thinking about Savinho. That is just incredible.
I want to stop thinking about it. I want to stop thinking about this. I want to stop thinking about what's coming next. Jules, thank you so much. We're going to see you very soon over the weekend. I tell you what, we just need to get some sleep and come back. And hopefully come back stronger. Marlon, thank you so much. Miles, have a lovely holiday. He's going to be away. Next time we're going to see Marlon, the window is going to be shut. So at least for his perspective, he hasn't got to face anymore. Billie T,
can I just say to end the show, guys, in 4 billion years, the universe will cease to exist. So really, none of this really matters, does it? So up the Spurs.
No one will remember this. Listen.
Hang on a minute. Can I just put that in my diary? Hang on a second.
None of it really matters.
My God. Listen, to the near 46,500, and I'm not joking, probably most of them are Arsenal fans that have been watching this show. Thank you so much for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I always want to try and offer a positive, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am really struggling right now to find any kind of positive that's going to pick us off the ground at the moment. All I can say is there is 10 days remaining, and Tottenham, you've got a lot to do in these next 10 days of the window if you're going to be showing Thomas Frank this club can win the Premier League or the Champions League. sarcasm at its best. From the wonderful Johnny H, from the brilliant George Achillia, from Marlon the Spurs Kings, from the superb Billie T. I think Billy might be as busy as what Johan Lang, Daniel Levy, or might be even more busy than him, given what's happened in these last 20 days of this window. Listen,
I'm
from us all,
advancing, mate. I'm advancing.
yeah, Billie T's advancing. He's edging. Thank you so much for all your incredible support out there for Last Word on Spurs. We'll probably be back with you before you know it. We need to take a rain check and come back and see what's left. Keep safe. Keep well. Oh, God, I hate this transfer window. From us all, keep safe. And as always, come on, you Spurs.